I'm about to explain every single route in football, from shortest to deepest down the field. And at the end of this video, we're gonna look at some of the biggest misconceptions that people have when it comes to route running, and it will permanently change the way you look at offensive play calling in the future. Let's start with the slant. The slant is a 3-step route that breaks at a 45-degree angle into the middle of the field. The slant is pretty common on third and medium, where the offense just has to get 5 yards in order to get the first down. It's even more popular on the goal line. Here you can see Justin Jefferson give a split release, and he doesn't climb up all 3 steps, but because his angle is taking him into the end zone, as soon as he captures leverage on this cornerback defender, the route is pretty much won from the start. But you'll even find that the slant is pretty popular on 1st and 10, just to get a quick rhythm throw so that way the quarterback can feel warmed up going into the rest of his drive. So the flat is a quick out route that's designed to take easy yardage if the cornerback is playing off of the receiver. And because this cornerback defender is playing 7 yards off the ball, and at the start he even takes a hop shuffle step, the quarterback knows that he can get this ball out of his hands quick and take the easy yards that the defense is giving us. Now there's a really cool wrinkle in the flat route. If this cornerback defender were to be pressing instead of playing 7 yards off, so say he's standing up here, it wouldn't make a lot of sense to be able to have this receiver run this route over here to this direction, because he's going to be in the lane to be able to intercept this ball given the quarterback puts it on a line. So if this cornerback defender presses, you're going to see that a lot of teams will change this into a deep go route down the field. You're never going to know that it was a called quick out when in reality they converted it to a fade. It's just going to look like a fade when you watch it on television. Just understand that these are quick audibles that receivers and quarterbacks are making without even saying anything. They're just looking at the defensive picture and adjusting accordingly. This is called a shallow route or a drag route. And all this means is that the receiver is going to take off across the field and try and get to the other side close to the line of scrimmage as fast as they possibly can. Now, when you run 2 of these at each other, this becomes one of the best man-to-man beaters in all of football. This is called a mesh concept. And say that these 2 defenders are playing man-to-man on top of the Z receiver and the F receiver. As soon as these guys start to cross across the middle, they're going to have a really hard time navigating across the field trying to map up to their guys on the opposite side. And oftentimes, offensive coordinators will tell one of the receivers to deliberately run into one of the defenders so that way the other shallow route can get open. Well, here you can see the ball is snapped, and in no way, shape, or form is number 11 trying to get open here. His body language is just trying to get in the way of number 19, so that way when his teammate catches this and comes out on the other side, he's going to have a step on him, and now he can run up the field, and it's a long time before the post safety is able to get there and make the tackle. So the hitch is one of the first routes that people learn when they learn how to play football. All it is just 5 yards and turn around quick. Look for the ball. This is a really good route to run if you want to just get the first down. Just let your receiver run it, boom, give it to him. But the main function of a hitch is that most time it's going to operate as a decoy route. So Jamar Chase is going to have this hitch at the top of the screen, and by the time he catches the ball, he still has 2 to 3 yards of separation, and he's able to make a move, get up the field, cut, get an extra 5. So now a called 5-yard play that's just designed to get the quarterback in rhythm is now turning into a 10-yard play down the field that's moving the chains for the offense. The best receivers in the NFL don't need the most intricate routes to get open. If you're a receiver that can get yards after the catch, that increases your value dramatically. The next route that we're talking about is the arrow, and this is going to pair up pretty well with the hitch because the arrow is a 0-yard route that goes all the way out to the flat, and it's really important for horizontal spacing. So let's say that the defense were to be in some sort of zone coverage. Let's just call it a cover 3. So this just means that you're going to have your 3 zones deep over the top and 4 zones underneath. So with this running back pushing all the way to the flat, it's going to force this widest zone to have to expand with this arrow route. And then say that we told our wide tight end to run another hitch, but over the ball, now we just created a massive lane for our quarterback to be able to deliver this ball to our hitch route. And that started because our running back was able to push all the way to the sideline and create this horizontal separation. But you can see how a route that seems so insignificant, a 0-yard route at the line of scrimmage, can be responsible for making bigger plays happen down the field. The bubble is a route where our wide receiver is going to drop back behind the line of scrimmage, and he's going to catch this ball, use the other 2 as blockers so that way he can go up the field and try and make a play. Most bubbles are RPOs, and they're going to be paired with a quarterback run play. And if there's more guys in the box that are stopping the run play, the quarterback's going to throw it to the other place and throw the screen. Whereas there's not a lot of guys out here on the perimeter, now all of a sudden we have a numbers advantage, and the quarterback can throw the ball and give his receiver a chance to get off the field. So here you can see the Commanders have 3 receivers all the way out wide at the top of the screen, and there's 3 defenders playing over the top of them as well. But as soon as this ball snapped, you can see that this linebacker creeps up, and he's about to blitz up up the field. So now when the ball is snapped, there's only 2 defensive backs over the top of 3 receivers. So as long as both of these receivers can pick up their blocks, Terry McLaurin is able to get in between this gap, and now it's just up to number 31 who's trying to catch him, and it's off to the races. Terry McLaurin gets in the end zone. What a play. Alright, but now let's move on to the second level routes. So the routes that are going to be a little bit deeper down the field that hit at about 10 to 15 yards. The first one we're talking about is the dig. And now this route's going to take a little bit longer to develop because it's going to have to push all the way vertical and then across the field behind all these linebackers that are playing in the middle of the field. So what you can do as an offensive coordinator is you can pair your dig with some quick game routes and short routes. So let's say that we ran this hitch with the F, this hitch again with the X, space it out like we did with the T on this arrow route, and maybe we just leave our Y in to protect to make sure that there aren't any unnecessary blitzes coming at the quarterback. So now our quarterback read progression can be, hey, quarterback, read the left side of the field first and see if this arrow route distracts some of these linebackers and pulls them to zones where we could leave somebody open like we did in the Jamar Chase clip. And if nothing comes up open, now we can reset our vision from the left side of the field over to the right, and now we can see if we can hit our Z receiver. It's going to take the X less time to run a 5-yard hitch than it is for the Z to run a 12-yard route and then across the middle. So by pairing up short routes and intermediate routes together, you can sort of see how read progressions are structured in the offensive coordinator system. You never want to look at a dig as the first read in your progression. It's going to come open late across the middle of the field. So while it's developing, you can look at the other routes on the field to see if you can just take what the defense gives you. The glance is just a glorified slant. It's just instead of 3 steps, it's going to be at 5 steps. And this is one of the most popular routes to use on RPOs in modern football. And RPOs are pretty common. The quarterback is going to read the defense to decide if he wants to hand the ball off or if he wants to pull it and throw it over the top. So let's look at Malik Neighbors at the top of the screen. He's going to have this 5-yard slant, so you can see him count his steps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the quarterback is going to be reading the linebacker defender that's standing right in front of him. Because he's showing the run mesh like he's about to hand the ball off, the linebackers have to respect it and step up the field a little bit to be able to defend the run. But then as soon as the quarterback reads their body language and sees that they've committed too far to the run play, he's going to pull it and throw it over the top, and now all of a sudden you have an open receiver that was created because of this RPO run mesh. Quarterback run mesh, boom, complete the throw, and then Malik Neighbors gets some yards after the catch too. A lot of teams will want to try and use a slant on an RPO, but that's a little bit scarier because you don't stress the linebacker as far vertically. Like say this X receiver, instead of at 5 steps down the field, he only did this at 3. And now he's breaking off here. It's much easier for this linebacker to be able to play both spots because they're just simply closer together than if there were to be an extra 2 steps down the field. That makes a huge difference in the NFL, where a yard of separation is the difference between a touchdown and an interception. So the fallout route is where the X receiver is going to push up the field as vertically as hard as he can for 15 yards. And at this point, he's going to read his positioning with the defender that's guarding him. Say that this corner is over the top of him and the X is right here on this arrow. He's going to curl out of his route and work back to the quarterback, so that way he still has a favorable position on this throw. Whereas if he were to beat this cornerback so bad on the release that at the top of his route, the cornerback is behind him or even with him, now all of a sudden he can take this route up the field and the quarterback can put it over the top for the bigger completion over the top. So all this does is just read the body language of the deepest defender that's guarding him, and it should make sure that he has an open route regardless of what coverage the defense is playing. So here at the top of the screen, you can see this receiver push vertical, and as soon as he gets to his depth, he's going to snap down and push back to the quarterback. Now, very similar to the conversion on the flat concept. As football fans, we're never going to know if this was a called fallout route or if it was just a curl at 15 yards. Now, the sail route is such a good route in football because this is when you have a lot of your toe tap catches versus the sideline. So your receiver is going to push up vertical, and at about 12 to 14 yards, he's going to roll this out to the sideline, try and make a play. So here at the bottom of the screen, you can see that this receiver is going to have the deep out sail route. And he does a really good job of pushing vertical up the field, threatening this DB to the inside. At some point, the defensive back is going to have to open his hips. And now as soon as he's showing this blind spot to the sideline, he sticks his right foot in the ground and is able to push to the sideline, catching this ball, getting both feet in. That's a really good play. So now let's talk about the curl route. This is going to be extremely similar to the fallout route, but instead of retracing your stem back down where you came from, he's going to actually stem in towards the quarterback to give him an angle so that way you can throw it to him. This is a decent man-to-man beater. If you release outside and then at the top of the break you use your hand to sort of push through off of this receiver, now you can come back to the ball, boom, you just caught it. Sort of like how you would if you were running a hitch. But where this route really thrives is in zone coverage. Now all we would have to do is play with the horizontal spacing to open up the window so that way the quarterback can fit the ball. Maybe our Y runs a route quick out to the flat like an arrow route or some sort of flat route, so that way this defender is held as wide as possible. Now all of a sudden this Z receiver just has to read the body language of this linebacker who's going to be dropping into the flats. So if he expands too far, just has to curl around him, that's a huge window between where the next guy is coming. And say that he were to stay inside and not play enough, drop that a little bit shallower, fit it into this window, and now the quarterback can take him up the field. So, but hey, if you've liked this video so far, give me a like, give me a subscribe. It would mean the world to me, man. But hey, so our post is going to be a 10 to 12 yard route that then breaks up into the middle of the field. So if you play with one safety back and you have a post player, now all of a sudden it's closed and this guy's going to be able to pick this ball off easily. But say if on the other hand, if you were to have two deep defenders, you have one here dropping and one here dropping, and this middle defender wouldn't be here no more. You can see that this post runs right into the area where there's no deep defenders on the field. And any cover 0, cover 2, cover 4, cover 6, the post route is a dangerous threat for an immediate touchdown, because if he catches it, this ain't no dig where there's a safety over the top. The safety is the guy that's getting red on this play. So if you complete a post, the odds of it scoring is pretty high. So here at the start of the play, this receiver at the bottom of the screen is going to be the one who's running our post route. And you can see that the defense has two safeties up at the top of the screen. Now you can see that number 24 is playing to his help. That's supposed to be there in the middle of the field. But all it takes is the safety getting distracted for 1/10 of a second, and then right where he was supposed to be is where the ball ended up landing. That's a touchdown. So now the corner route is going to push up to about 10 to 12 yards, and then it's going to break up to the front pylon of the end zone. The corner route is going to be really good if you pair it up with a hitch on the outside, because let's say that the defense is playing a zone coverage and say it's a cover 2. So now all of a sudden this cornerback defender in red is going to have to decide if he wants to either sink back and play deeper to try and help out on the more explosive play on the corner route, or if he wants to just trigger and hold over the top on this defender on this hitch route. So this creates what we call a high-low read. So maybe on this play art, you leave the Y in to block, make sure that you're not getting sacked from some sort of like exotic pressure coming in over the top. And then you put your X on a backside dig route. If nothing comes open for sure with this max concept, now all of a sudden you can go from looking at this angle over here to your high-low and just change it 1 degree, and now your receiver is going to be open in one of these two windows and you can give him the ball. So here you can see Jameson Williams. You can see how his stem is taking him inside on the field, so that way he has more space to the sideline to be able to catch this ball over the top. Now it's just a one-on-one ball over the top to see who is going to come down with this catch. But one of the biggest mistakes that I see with this corner route is that people don't take it high enough up the field, especially young wide receivers. So they'll run this route and they'll be so anxious to try and break it off steep, but now the quarterback doesn't have nearly as much room to be able to complete this ball, because as soon as you set your angle, you give the quarterback, okay, that's as much ground as you're going to be able to complete this ball. So like we said earlier, if we have a cover 2 defender standing right in here, now all of a sudden it's easier for him to be able to sink and make a play on this ball. Whereas the best wide receivers, like we see J-Mo in this example, he keeps his angle so skinny and over the top that now the quarterback has so much more room to be able to work with when he's throwing this ball up in the air. Now it's time for our go ball. The name for the go route is pretty self-explanatory, because all you're going to do is just go as deep as you possibly can down the field. Now there's a couple of other routes that also have the same pattern of just going straight down the field that have similar names. So if you were to run a go in the slot, all of a sudden now instead of calling it a go, you're going to call this a seam. And then if you were to call a go route in the red zone or really close to scoring a touchdown, now all of a sudden it's called a fade. Let's start off with the go ball. That's going to be the easiest one to break down. So at the bottom of the screen, you can see Malik Neighbors lined up versus number 23. And his route is literally just clear out up the field, go as fast as you possibly can. He comes back to the ball, makes a crazy catch. Now all of a sudden it's a first down. There's not much real game plan or strategy to this. This is just, is the receiver better than the corner who's guarding him? Let's see if he can go make a play, throw it up deep. But now when it comes to the seam ball, what happens when you do these field rotations and pull a safety from the boundary that's starting closer to the line of scrimmage and asking him to get up to the post post area of the field to guard the middle of the field, it means that he's going to have a ton of distance to travel to cover this seam ball that started on the opposite side of the field. So as soon as Lamar seen the safety drop down, now all of a sudden he just sees Isaiah Likely with his hand up and nobody's in front of him, put it up for him, go make a play. So now we're going to see Malik Neighbors at the top of the screen again, but this time he's going to be running the fade ball. There's going to be two ways that the quarterback can complete it. The quarterback can either put it all the way over the top and let him hit you in stride over the shoulder, you'd catch it like this, or you can open up back to the quarterback, catch it on your back shoulder. Because this defensive back is playing so far over the top of where Malik Neighbors is at, it makes it so much easier for him to just throw this ball on a bullet pass. Now he can just fall off easily and the defender never even had a chance to make the play. So now you can see Justin Jefferson lined up at the bottom of the screen. He's about to run this crossing route over the field. And this is in the end zone, but you can see how as soon as these defenders on the right side of the screen get attracted to their guys man to man, it just leaves Justin Jefferson wide open over the top by himself. But where this route really shines is in zone coverage. Because this route is coming from the opposite side of the field, it's going to be really hard for this curl flat defender to be able to pick up and sink on it because he can't see what's coming behind him. So because this post route cleared out this deep third and now he's running with him, and this skinny post took out this post player, and now he's running across the field too, and that leaves so much open space for this Z to be able to catch the ball. Literally anywhere past the center to the left side of the field is going to be wide open for this guy to catch the ball. So now the last type of receiver route that we're going to see is the double moves. And these are just going to be combinations of the same routes that we've already ran. So let's say that the X is out here on the left side of the field, and you want to call like a zig route, something you would see on Madden. All you have to do is run a slant first and then turn it into a flat route. And now all of a sudden you have a double move that'll beat man-to-man coverage. Or let's say you want to call a hitch and go. The double move literally describes how to run the route. So now all of a sudden, as a Z receiver, you're going to run a hitch at 5 yards, and now you're going to turn up the field into a go route and see if you can beat this man-to-man. Most of these double move routes are designed to cook man-to-man coverage. And that's really important to know when you're calling them in terms of downs and distance. Say especially if it's like 3rd and 5 and your first down line is right here at the sticks. It would make so much sense for you to just run a hitch to try and get to the sticks and get the first down. But the riskiest play callers that I've seen are the ones that will call double moves that hit right at the sticks. So that way when they turn up the field, the defensive pursuit is going to be so much more violent because they're trying with their whole soul to not let you catch this at the first down. I'll hear young receivers ask me, how do I get open more of the time? But the truth is that honestly, you're not supposed to get open most of the time. In every single one of those plays that I just showed, with the exception of the go ball where they just threw it up to Malik Neighbors on the right side and he just caught it like these, it takes one receiver being covered to have another receiver that is open because you have to read the defense and where they're committed to each other. So what does this mean to us as passers? So let's go back to our smash concept that we had when we had this corner route in the hitch by the X receiver. The main reason that this play is so good is because this cornerback is going to have to decide who he wants to cover. If he sinks back and covers the corner route, that leaves the hitch to be able to get completed. Whereas if he were to step up and guard this shallower route, now all of a sudden we have space to be able to hit the bigger one over the top. But what this means, if you're a receiver running one of these two routes, there's a 50% chance that you are going to get covered and the ball should not go to you. And there is nothing that you could have done. There's no way that you could have perfected your route in order to get open. It's ultimately just reading the defense and throwing the ball to where he doesn't choose to go on the field. And so now, yes, there are obviously things you can do to become a better route runner. You should try to push vertical and make all your routes look the same so that way a man-to-man defender doesn't know which way you're going to break on the field. So when you're running this corner route, by pushing vertical through the whole thing, you're going to be able to pair it up with the slant. And he doesn't know if you're going to run a slant, or if you're going to run the flat, or if you're going to run the glance, or if you're going to run a seam ball up the middle, or if you're going to even turn this into a deep post over the middle. So by keeping your pad level at the same stride and running up the field, that is pretty much one of the only things that you can control to get yourself open more of the time. But most of the time, you are going to be covered, and that's okay. If the quarterback still completes the pass after you were covered, that's a good thing. That means that you were able to pull the defense to get your teammate open. So instead of thinking about it as how can I get myself open, think about it as how can our whole wide receiver core work together to be able to get somebody open if they're playing zone defense. And then if they're playing man-to-man defense, I need to get on my stuff and be able to make sure that I'm elusive enough to get away from the guy that's covering me. So hey man, I hope you're able to learn something from this video. I made a video pretty similar to this in the past, but I hope that this was different enough so that way you're able to get some new information from it. But if you guys like this video, give me a like, give me a subscribe. Shout out to Jesus Christ, shout out the King. I love y'all, and be easy, man. Hey, yeah, hey, yeah, hey, Bobby Shmurda, put it back on Bobby Shmurda, yeah.